Well, folks, here we are. We're out at the campsite at the pond. My first video was just discussing the fact that I'm going to be out here this coming week for 3 to 4 days, 2 to 3 nights. I wish it was 2 or 3 weeks. But, so here's where I'm at. Since the last video, I had gathered up my stuff to make a couple of tripods, and so I made the tripods. Got one in the front, one in the back. I've got a ridge pole. It's all deadwood. It's all sturdy. Not going to blow away on me. I set the ends down into the ground about 3 to 4 inches. Some of them a little more. And I lashed the tarp on. Okay? Now, that tarp will flop a little bit. It'll have some movement to it. Doesn't matter. This is the outer shell of my shelter, because now when I come out here this week, I'll be bringing that Boy Scout tent I was talking about, and that'll get pitched inside here. It'll fit in here quite nicely. This is going to provide some protection from the sun. It's going to provide some protection from the rain, if it happens to rain. If it happens to rain, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying out here. So, and like I said, we'll have some videos while I'm out here. So I've cleaned up my site out front. Underneath here, I'm not as concerned. The ground is nice and soft. It's got no roots or stumps or anything's poking out. There was no brush in this area. So I'll be setting the tent right on top of that. Now, I'll be taking some material that I put on the ground, and then I set the tent on top of that material, and I'll cover that when I put the tent up. So, and then once the tent is up, because of the side tie-outs on the tent, and you'll see that, that'll pull this side of the tarp out a little bit further. So, you'll see that. It actually gives the outer tarp a little better effect on what it's going to do for me. And as I said, I cleaned this area up, and right out front here, right there, will be my fire pit. Now, what I'll be doing, I'm not going to be able to do it today. The day is getting short, and I see some heavy weather off to the south of us, so it might rain yet. What I'll be doing is I'll be finding myself a good dead stick. I might even take that one there. And I'm going to whittle with my machete. I'm going to knock off the end to a chisel point. And then I'm going to use that as my shovel. And I'm going to work up my fire pit area so that that ground is all worked up and the organics are kind of turned over. And I'll start my initial fire in there when I come out to camp and burn that spot out. And I got to try to clean this up a little more. I don't want any fire traveling, especially in the spring, because things are so dry like this. But there we are. Right now, things are set and ready for me to bring the tent out. I'm just not ready. I got a couple more days yet before I can come out. So, I think what I'll do is I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to basically pan the area that I'm in so that you can see where my camp is. And now how I selected this spot. Now keep in mind, I'm at a beaver pond. Most beaver ponds for acres around them are just swampland. They're just wet. I'm fortunate that there's this piece of high ground up in this area. It's quite high. It's slightly slanted. It's got a little bit of a slope to it, not much, but enough that if it does rain, the water's running straight to the pond. And as I said, there's not a lot of debris here. There's not a lot of brush. So it's a very comfortable place to bed down on the ground. So I don't think I'm going to have to put anything under the tent padding-wise. So that's nice. there's a huge water source. There's the beaver pond. Now, a lot of people don't start yelling, oh, you can't drink beaver water. That's full of Giardia and all kinds of bugs, and you can't drink beaver water. You can if it's purified. And I'll be talking about that while I'm camping, how you can take that water, filter it, boil it, and use it, okay? And what the risks are about this water. But that is a very viable source of water, all kinds of water. I also have a huge amount of firewood around, all over the place. I can gather up firewood, no problem. I'm only on a camping trip, but if I was out here and I needed to eat, I'll get into that in the videos while I'm here. There's all kinds of food sources. I'm looking at 2 ducks right there about 35 feet away from me. There's ways that you can snare ducks. There's ways you can set up duck traps. There's ways that you could eat out here at this time of the year quite well. So the plant life is limited, of course, because it's just starting. There are some things that are edible, but most plants are just starting. So let's take a look at the area. I'll just do kind of a pan around so you get an idea. And if you listen, the frogs are out. Oh my gosh, are they out. They're noisy. And at night out here, you can hardly hear yourself talk. So I'm going to do a pan so that you can see what we got going on here. Okay, the shelter, of course. And off in that direction, that's looking back towards our base camp and towards the lean-to. They're probably, the lean-to's base camp's probably 2 to 3 football fields from here. Lean-to's maybe 3.5, 4 football fields from here. And this is just panning the high ground here from the pond. There's the shelter. You can tell it's pretty thickly wooded. Once you get back beyond that meadow right back there, you get back in there and that's heavy wooded. Great shaga hunting country back in there. Now this is just along the edge of the pond. And there you can see the pond off to the left. And there's a trail that runs all along there, and now you can't get back there. The beavers have built canals way back in the woods. You can't cross anymore. You have to go way around. You got to go about 3 acres of distance around it. And there's the northwest end of the pond. That's looking west. That's pretty much west there. Now it's southwest. There's the other beaver hut. The new one that they put up last fall, they're making it bigger even now. Then as you come around, I think there you can see the main beaver hut right there. And then it comes around and the pond basically ends right about there. So that is my view that I will have this week out here in this camp. Actually, if I were to move the camera the other way, well, you saw it. basically that's what my view is going to be when I sit out front of my shelter here. Now what I'm going to do, one of the projects I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do after I get established the first day, is I'm going to build myself a nice bushcraft camp chair, because I don't want to sit on the ground. So that'll be probably the first project I do when I get out here that's a bushcrafting project per se. I have to collect firewood. I have to get a good tinder pile and stash going. Yeah, I have a lot of things that I'll have to do my first day out, but getting this basic shell all put up ahead of time will make my life a lot easier when I get out here. And my first day will probably be my busiest day as far as establishing camp, but otherwise it's going to be mostly pleasure out here. So I want to thank you folks. It's always good having you come along. And this is a little different, you know, come along for a few days camp out, style. Like I said, when I don't have clients, I'll take advantage of it and I'll go out and camp and have a good time. I've had people say, if you're not in camp with clients, why in the world would you want to go out and camp? Because that's what you do all the time, is you camp for a job. That's your livelihood, is you go out and camp. So how many people, when they have a few days off, go to work? Well, that's the thing. This isn't work. This is my life. And I'm glad to have you tagging along in it. This is Sty North. Check us out at wildernesssthriving.com. And you all have a nice day.